So Stuart, thank you for coming on the podcast today. Wanted to sit down and have a bit of an informal chat about AWE. Obviously it's your 90th year. Yep. So for anybody that doesn't know Mr. Stuart Tickle or doesn't know AWE, introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and potentially a little bit about AWE, and then we'll drill back to the foundations of the business.
Excellent. Yeah. Well, thanks, Stu, first of all, for coming down and letting us share our story. Some will know it, many won't, and that's the interesting thing. You're one of those people who have dealt with us for quite a few years. So
yeah, for those 12 now. Yeah.
About 12 years.
Yeah.
That's it. Teenager when you started.
I wish.
Yeah. So we go back 90 years, but in terms of me, so I'm Stuart, MD of AWE. And what AWE 90 is about is explaining what our roots were, what our foundations are. So for myself, that involved growing up in a family. So I'm fourth generation family business owner. And the great thing that we're drawing out of AWE 90 is what the different generations have done over the years, because we've all made our different marks. But for me, it was just, the family business was a factory in Thornton Heath. It wasn't what we do now. It was nothing to do with what we do. So my introduction in terms of work was actually Saturday boy in my dad's shop.
I saw the picture. If you go to AWE's website, you've put a nice little story on there. And it was seeing the picture of you as a Saturday boy on your first day or whatever like that. And obviously knowing you for so many years, it was like, it's great to see that picture. And to see, the bloodline, that the fact of all the way back then. So when was that? What sort of year was that?
Well, that would have been in the 90s. I was still at school when I started. So I was part-time, literally Saturday boy. So it was, there's a picture of the shop up there, the old Pioneer logo with the tuning fork in the ohm sign and all of that, an old Cortina outside. It wasn't mine. Yeah. That was, there was a factory next door, and we can go delve back before that. But me growing up was, Dad worked, it was called The Works. It was a small coil winding business in Thornton Heath. Say small, it had about 25 people, but on a production line, making transformers, wound components and so on. And Dad had started this business on the side, which ultimately resulted in there being a hi-fi shop. And I'll explain more about the detail later. So my introduction, as I say, was there. And that was selling at what at the time was Pioneer Hi-Fi. Yeah. And we had the top 40 CDs. I spent my days, and there was a small tray counter out the back, which is the nucleus of what AWE now is.
And you still have the tray counter?
We still have the tray counter. It's a different physical counter.
Yeah. It's not 90 years old.
It's not. It's not the original. But we have still got a tray counter, and you were here yesterday picking up some bits.
I've got to say the tray counter is brilliant because I was local, on the day job a few weeks ago, and not that I didn't think about it, but the fact is that I was just swapping the network out. So of course everything's there, swapping the network out. But of course, I made the oversight that it was front-facing switches on this, on the one that was there. And of course, I've got rear-facing switches now, rear-facing ports. So it was like Thames Ditton to Epsom. Right, I could do that literally on the website. Put them in, put a little message on there saying I'm going to come and collect these in 30 minutes. Yeah. Rock up at the back door, buy them, go back and finish the job off.
And get them.
Yeah, which is brilliant. And obviously get them at a great price as well.
Oh, of course. Yeah. Of course. And that's why we have, I'm sure we'll touch on our brands later, but that example, it was Quartz Cables, which is a newish addition to our portfolio. And I don't think, we're not trying to be everything to everyone. We're a specialist in what we do, but things like cables and connectors are the type of thing that you need to get. Our location in Epsom, so Surrey, south of London, there's a reason we're here, and it is because it services quite a wide variety of jobs. Obviously, there's quite a lot in London and the southeast, and everything else goes nationwide courier or by our own van. So
yeah, and here you don't have to worry. There's lots of parking. You can pull up out the back, pick up your TVs like I did last year. I think it was a couple earlier this year. A couple of big screen TVs. So let's go back So to put my glasses on because I'm getting old. To 1935, when the business was founded.
Yep.
I should have been able to work that out if my maths was any better than it is. Back to 1935. So the seed, the essence of what is now AWE.
Yep.
How did that sort of take us through that journey from 1935 to where we are now?
Thinking of building your dream home cinema? Don't know where to start? Start with the HCA. At the Home Cinema Alliance, we connect homeowners with the very best in the business. Our members are trusted designers, installers and technology experts who know how to turn any room into a breathtaking cinematic experience. Whether you're building from scratch or converting a spare room, our members are here to help you every step of the way. Visit our website to find your local member at homecinemalliance.co.uk.
Sure. Well, this is the funny thing, because I touched on there that when I was growing up, my dad was running The Works, which was a factory in Thornton Heath, and that is the original premises that my great-granddad started the business at. But what I didn't know is that my great-granddad, he was actually a hobbyist. So it was about 1933 he started the principle of the business as a hobbyist, and it was radiograms, radio menders, wireless radios. But it was 1935 that the company was actually incorporated, so he professionalised his hobby into the business, hence being the 1935 is the landmark date that the company was incorporated.
Officially on paper.
Officially on paper, exactly. But yeah, that was a guy who loved the new technology at the time that was wireless radios, the original wireless, not
wireless like we're using on our
wireless
mics.
like we now know and love.
Yeah, ish.
Yeah. So he was taking what were commercially available radio sets and mending them, repairing them, improving them, selling them, and that led to Radio Menders Limited being incorporated. And that company registration is the same one that we have today.
Okay.
So whilst we've gone through a couple of evolutions, the Radio Menders Limited is the original incorporated business.
So if you look back on Company's House, you can see the whole history there, probably.
It would go from there, and it would go from Edgar Alexander Tickle, who's my great-granddad, to Alexander Tickle, AJ Tickle, through to BE, Barry Edgar Tickle, who's my dad, and then to myself now. So that original nucleus of the business was actually mending and selling radiograms, so hi-fi of the day, the best things of the day, and we have a folder which maybe we can insert here, which is his original folder, leather bound, his master's voice, embossed HMV folder. And as you flick the pages, you've got photographs, beautiful black and white photographs of radiograms with handwritten details and letters from suppliers and so on. So I didn't know this growing up because it was my dad and maybe my granddad's era that I was aware of. And, funny enough, there wasn't a huge draw for hi-fi of the time during World War II. So having started 90 years ago, World War II was a thing, and it came along, and the company pivoted. And being a South London-based, there was sales side of the business, but also the engineering and coil winding. This is where my granddad was now involved. It was a protected trade, so the company pivoted more towards the manufacturing and electronic component side of things. And there's some vague history about being involved in radar and just supplying some components and things. But of course, that stuff was never documented. You weren't allowed to, and it all had to be destroyed.
Not read about that. Not that time. It was all very secretive.
That's it. But those are the days where, well, the country, but London in particular, was peppered with lots of different engineering companies. And we did coil winding for some loudspeaker brands, for example.
You mean back when we actually manufactured things in this country?
Back when we manufactured things in this country, which, I could...
We still do.
Well, we've taken you to the Bowers and Wilkins factory in Worthing, so we still do, but we generally manufacture expensive things because of the price of doing business, for the cost of doing business in the UK. We tend to manufacture really specialist things. So the company moved, it was then Electro Wines Limited, which reflected the coil winding side of things. So it's wines with a D rather than the drinking type.
Yeah.
I'm sure a bit of the drinking
Probably went
happened as well. In fact, I remember my grandfather well, and there was a few bottles of red involved.
Especially after rationing ended and all that sort of war stuff, it would have been...
Exactly, just one small glass a day, you know, with dinner.
For health reasons.
Blood thinning. So it was a time when small businesses were thriving, and the generation changed, and my father evolved the business to newer technologies of the same thing, but within Electro Wines we were doing aircraft ground lighting transformers, so BAA and MOD, every runway light at Gatwick and Heathrow had one of our transformers buried in the ground next to it, believe it or not. And there was some BAA, some MOD airfields as well. So we were the approved supplier for all of those. So that's an example of probably a 20-year period where there were, that's what my dad did, that's what I knew growing up. It was manufacturing transformers, wound components, and they used to be baked in ovens. So literally dipped in varnish, baked in ovens overnight. So I just remember Dad working hard, popping off to the factory to empty the ovens and put the next batch in over the weekend, so that when the staff came back in on the Monday, they could dip them in resin and do the other bits that were needed.
It's funny, isn't it? Because like that sort of story you have there is completely the same with me. Because like my dad was a manager for Singer sewing machines, and then he had the opportunity to start up his own business with, I think it was his area manager. There's shop in Hayes, shop in Brighton. But it's the same. I can remember being at school, coming home from school, overhearing the conversations from mum and dad, and then, you know, because the shop wasn't open on the Sunday, if Dad needed to do something or catch up with something or paint the front of the shop because he owned a building, he would go off at the weekend. That's what you did, because it was your business. It was the bread and butter that fed us kids.
Absolutely, and the interesting thing is, it's been a real privilege going through the AWE 90 process and hearing staff talk about their thoughts of AWE in the business, and that sort of ethos of that's the work ethic side of it, but also that family ethos of making sure, you know, everyone's happy, for example, as best as you can within the business environment, and that type of thing is what's basically passed through the generations. 'Cause it's been demonstrated to me from my parents and previous to that.
Well, I think you can still see it jumping forward to today. It's like, for a second, you can still see that. I mean, a lot of the people that are still in the building today, obviously people come and go, but you know, they're still the same faces that were here, slightly older, but the same faces that were here.
Same faces, a bit wrinklier.
Yeah. When I started dealing with you guys, you know, sort of whatever it was, 10 plus years ago. So it is always quite nice, you know, picking up the phone and go, oh, how are you? You know, and Nick, like Nick Mott, you know, it's just like, oh, I've heard you had a child.
Yeah,
you know, and
got married and had a child.
Yeah, and he's like, when did that happen?
But I thought you were 16.
Yeah, because you was.
No, those are the nice things, and so we have very, very good staff retention. Within that, what you get though is a core of people that grows, and then of course you get people that come and go, stay for a year, 3 years, 5 years around the edge. Yeah. The reason that's notable is because we have a core of people who are here and continue, and that core enlarges. Let's say every few years you noticed, there's a couple more familiar faces who have been around for a long time. So a number of people that have been working for us 5 to 10, but we've also got 15, 25 and 30 years. In fact, our GM, Jackie, worked for my dad. Yeah. And her mum worked for my granddad. And her son was our warehouse manager, started as a junior, but ended up as a warehouse manager, worked for us for about 10 years. Yeah, Paul brought his son in.
Well, and it was just over the weekend, just flipping through the website and watching the 90-second video you did, wasn't it? You know, through the years, and it's sort of the picture of Paul, you know, at the counter.
That was the tray counter. Yeah. Do you know what that was? Our tray counter. That was the packing bench. Yeah. That was the goods in, and from where the photo was taken was our basically our office, our marketing department, our sales line, because it was me and Paul. We had a fax machine and some kind of old computer, which was modern at the time. And everything, there was a shop out the front, back the side, and the office out the back.
Yeah.
And that was it.
I'll insert a picture of a fax machine here, just so anybody doesn't understand.
Well, exactly. That's how we distributed our price list. It was before email. So we used to, it used to be cut and paste and photocopy it, but then it was on a word processor.
Yeah.
It was a really modern thing. And we used to, Page Plus, I think it was called.
Yeah.
There we go. And we used to piece it together, print it out, and then fax it through, having typed in a number, and the numbers we were getting out the yellow pages.
Oh, really?
Because we were scouting for business. We were in, I suppose this is actually a great segue, like what you did there.
There you go. Yeah.
When we got into the part of what AWE is now, is because within that Electro-Wines business was a factory. And my dad started a sister business at the same premises called Audiolite Limited. And that was manufacturing background music systems and PA.
So what we'll be using commercial spaces?
Commercial space. So for that we were then selling to integrators, but commercial installers, and that was going into River Island, Deep Pan Pizza, Bass Brewery, pubs, and so on. So there was the two parts of the business. There was the manufacturing of wound components, transformers, and then there was Audiolite, which was the background music systems selling to commercial integrators. And that was based upon Clarion car tape decks.
Okay.
The mechanical type, where you push the middle button for eject and the tape pops out and spits at you. Then the mechanical rewind and fast forward. So he was buying those tape decks and then manufacturing a quick release mechanism around it that just let you slot it in. Because when they were in shops, they used to just get covered in clothes, and in pubs it came back with literally beer in it. So the whole idea was that you could remove these tape decks and do service exchange.
Okay.
So actually one of my first paid jobs, I did cable stripping free when I was child labour, but one of my first paid jobs was servicing these Clarion car tape decks.
Yeah.
Used to change the pinch rollers and clean the heads and change the drive belt band in there. So one of my first jobs was just sitting out the back of the shop.
Yeah.
If somebody came in, great, let's try and sell them something. But out the back was just servicing the tape decks.
It's weird because it's so hitting nostalgic for me, because I was down in the basement in Hastings sorting out the metal machines from the new plastic machines, because the metal machines had value to them. My wages were loading them in the van, taking them to the recycling place, and whatever they gave us as recycling, I then went and spent that on trainers. But when someone came into the shop, and like I say, my mum and dad I admire greatly because they worked together for 35 years. Okay, my dad was upstairs and my mum was in the shop. But like, if mum had said, "Oh, I've just got to nip out and get a pint of milk, can you just look after the shop?" Someone would walk in. And it was just, "Oh, hi, how are you?"
You deal with it.
And you just deal with it, and then mum would walk in, or if it got a bit complicated, you'd call dad down from repairing upstairs. "Oh, they want to buy a sewing machine, can you come and have a look?"
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, it's very similar, And the reason the shop was there was actually because the twin tape deck and the 4 quad-way tape decks, that was all fine. But Pioneer brought out the PDM-1, the 6-disc CD player with the cartridge. Yeah. We've got some of those out there as well.
Yeah, I remember that, yeah.
So
Reminiscent alley, this is, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, it's AWE 90. We've got to cover some of the old stuff, because this is the foundations of why I even have an interest in audio visual and hi-fi now. It was Pioneer. Essentially, Dad saw that the 6-disc CD player gave you 7 hours of random play music rather than tape decks. So it was more reliable and better quality, and 7 hours of random music. So he got a Pioneer account, and in the old factory premises was a shop front that used to be a carpet shop, just leased out. And the carpet shop went broke, and Dad got a Pioneer account, got a shop front, was open a Pioneer shop. And that's just when Pro Logic and LaserDisc was going. And the reason we had the top 40 CDs was because we used to do an exchange program for the shops and the pubs where they just used to say what kind of category of music they wanted. And one of my other jobs was loading these 6-disc cartridges and with the music and posting it off to the shops, and then they'd send their old ones back.
Could you swap it over?
So
you were
over.
Netflix, but for CDs, basically.
Absolutely.
Or Blockbuster.
We were
if you want to go
Spotify.
back even further. Yeah.
But that's what it is. There was no streaming.
No.
So now it's completely different.
Yeah.
So that was the ways of the stores getting their music, and I was sitting in the shop doing it. So for those of you that were shopping in River Island in the probably 2000s at that point, and drinking in pubs, that music would
Probably
I could have loaded those cartridges and sent it off.
And if you got any skips in it, was your sticky fingerprints on the back of the CD that was making the laser not read it.
You'd be amazed what came back in the CD players and the cartridges.
Especially in pubs, because obviously smoking was allowed in those days.
Smoking, the equipment used to come back, and at the clothes shops it was full of the fluff that comes off clothing.
Yeah.
So because these things were just shoved in shelves, it's not like now, even with the safety of equipment, they just used to be shoved in a storeroom and they get stuff piled over them. Yeah. And in the pubs, they were. Do you remember going into pubs and there was literally a bit of? Yeah. There was usually a stack of a couple of bits of equipment in a corner.
In the corner that someone could quickly do this to if they needed to.
Yeah, that's it.
Yeah.
And like some dodgy cabling, like stapled or up around the edges. Times have changed.
Oh yeah.
It's not all for the better, but in terms of installation capability.
We don't have pubs now, really.
Yeah, we have eating establishments that sell beer.
Yeah. Okay, so obviously, what sort of time period was that? That was.
So I would have been employed in the 90s.
Okay.
So probably 30 years ago.
Yeah.
Yeah, over that because I was at school, and then really so that's about when Paul joined.
Yeah.
As well during that period. So it was still when we were a shop with a tray counter, and Paul Mott, now sales director, joined as well.
Yeah.
So whilst the company had previous generations before, I think the thing that's made a difference and why we're still here is we have built on what's before, but what happened next is, if you like, I can say, well, that was my contribution to the sort of family business, which enabled Dad to retire and us to move premises. But I think what's interesting, I remember even going back to things like Sandown Park or Cedia exhibitions, and even now we get it. It's okay for you. You're one of the big ones, aren't you? And sometimes we're positioned as like this huge kind of corporate entity. Alongside, some of the multinational businesses that are on there, and it's like, no, actually, we're here through graft, and we've built to this point from scratch in terms of audiovisual distribution. Yeah, it was, like I say, faxing price lists to numbers at the Yellow Pages.
Well, it's good. So, like looking at the website, you've got in 1990, Stuart D. Tickle started working at the business as a Saturday boy, and you've got the picture there of the shop and the van and you.
Yeah.
And then obviously we then fast forward to 2002, where you've got AWE joined Cedia for the first time with the Cedia Expo in Brighton.
Yeah.
Was that? So when did you move? When did the move from the shop to what was round the corner?
So that would have been about 2000.
Yeah.
So we took a decision. So I started at the time, the bigger part of the business was the manufacturing, and the shop was ticking over. It was in Thornton Heath. It wasn't a particularly wealthy or lovely place. We got broken into more times than
started to realise who Pioneer were, and
exactly.
Yeah.
So it was an old building with a small shop in an area that was okay, but it wasn't a wealthy area. So as a shop, it was never going to just fly. But with that plus the trade counter, it was building, and it was a decision point in the shop and between myself and sort of Dad, whereas the manufacturing was getting harder because things like the transformers were starting to come from China, from big manufacturing places that were frankly better than kind of an independent business in South London could do. So whilst the products were superb, it was just the scale and the cost. So
there's only a so point when you start with every business. You start to look at, okay, I want to support these people, and what they do is really well, but
what do we do?
And then obviously buying from China, you've got to buy bulk. Otherwise,
Yeah.
it's just stupidly expensive. You start to use those products.
That's it. And so both sides of the manufacturing was getting harder, if I can say that. It certainly plateaued, but times were moving on, and it was becoming more obvious that we'd either have to totally invest in the manufacturing side and effectively transform it, pun intended, but it's quite a good one now I think
That's
about
quite good actually,
Yeah, going to use that. Should I do it again? Pun intended. No.
Transforming the CI industry. There you go. That's your new one,
Yeah, and we transformed our business.
Yeah.
When I say we used to build transformers, some people automatically think of those toys.
I was about to say,
Oh, really? That must be brilliant. No. These things got buried in the ground. So it was a conscious decision because we had the commercial distribution. The residential wasn't really there yet. It wasn't an industry in itself. So we were battling against the big distributors of the time, some of which are still there and have gobbled up most of the others, and others who have just disappeared completely. But so we started seeing, because we were doing Pioneer and we had large screen TVs and then plasma TV, it was LaserDisc, ProLogic, AC3, and then eventually Dolby Digital and all these things. This was exciting stuff. This was playing CD videos and, like I say, LaserDisc. And so there was something happening, and it was the beginnings of Cedia. So Cedia in the US was now a thing, and it was when Cedia show was at Selsdon Park Hotel. And this sort of captured our imagination, and it was a time where we thought, okay, can I make this what the business is going forward? And Paul was in the business by then, and we sort of decided, right, we're going to pivot the business and focus on this, because I wasn't an engineer and I wasn't excited about running a factory. So I'm a kind of a people person, but sales and marketing and people is my thing. Engineering and electronics. I went to college and I started learning about the PNP junction on the inside of a transistor, and I was like,
this isn't for me.
This isn't for me. Let me hear what it does when you've built it, and I'm interested, but I'm really not interested in the engineering side, or should I say the detail board level componentry. So we pivoted and we made a 5-year plan, and it was to make distribution, and more specifically residential distribution, or distribution of audiovisual equipment into residential market, what we did as a future. And so that small part of the business became mine and Paul's focus. And we then decided to exhibit at Cedia, and the first one, that was Brighton, was the first one we did, which we all look back with rose-tinted glasses for anyone who was there, because it was just lovely. And it was a young, exciting industry that was growing, and that's the beginning of where we are now.
I think home electronics, I mean, so about that sort of time that we've talked to, sort of like late 90s, I sort of started to get into it, and it started, was picking up, I think it was still, was it home cinema? It was What Hi-Fi? Maybe Home Cinema Choice.
Home Cinema Choice. Well, what Hi-Fi followed, because they then was like, oh, hold on, it was What Hi-Fi, Sound and Vision.
Because I can remember being, so when I got made redundant from a job in London, I went back to what I did at college, which was working for Victoria Wine. And I can remember being over I was sub-managing, so I was like that manager that went into a store when the manager went on holiday. And I can remember reading an issue of, about Blu-ray, about DVD. And when I got to know the guys at Seven Oaks in Tunbridge Wells, and it would be like, I've got a 2% pay rise, wandered up to Seven Oaks, and I bought the Pioneer LaserDisc player. And then because I'm a boy, I still lived at home with mum and dad. So like in my bedroom, I had floor standing Kefs around a 32-inch cathode tube TV, which nearly killed us carrying it upstairs. Lazy boy like Joey and friends would have with and it was starting to be something that the LaserDisc, the DVDs, and you started to see more of it, and people sort of doing these little systems at home. And as you say, my first amp was probably a Pioneer, and that was an AC3 amp.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Probably the VSA 701S, and the LaserDisc would have been the CLD 1200.
Yeah, probably.
Unless you had the CLD 1480, the one that changed the sides. It's like, I can't remember what I did
have
last
that,
week.
yes.
But yeah, there you go.
I bought it just because it was like, who wants to turn it over?
Yeah.
There's some people watching this podcast going, what the hell are they talking
Yeah.
about? What do you mean you have to get up and turn it over?
Yeah. I love the bit, it's related but different, Tom Petty, Full Moon Fever.
Yeah.
Playing the CD.
Yeah.
And about halfway through, it has some farmyard noises, and it goes, now this, we're just going to take a few moments for those for those people that have to get up, walk over to their record player and turn over the record and come back. In fairness to them, we're going to take a short break. About 3 seconds later, it goes to the next track.
It is funny. It's like...
when it was a thing.
Yeah, segue slightly. I remember having a conversation with a cousin. Unfortunately, she's no longer with us. And I was talking to my mum about a Queen song, because, you know, Queen, 10cc and all that I was brought up with. And I'm like, no, that was a B-side, Mum. That wasn't the A-side. And Laura, my cousin, just said, what's a B-side?
Yeah.
And I'm like, it's track 2.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, and it's like you used to have to turn the record over, and you would get the record would come out, and on the front side would be the one that was in the hits.
Yeah.
But as like a bonus, you got one on the B side, which was like, and you had to get up halfway through and turn it over.
Yep.
Now you just get your track and you skip around to whatever you want.
What do you think about that? Because I find it much harder to listen to an album because it's too easy to press next.
I get really frustrated, so I take my daughter kickboxing, ironically up in my old showroom, and she does kickboxing on a Saturday morning, and we're literally driving back from my office back to my house, which is 15-20 minutes, and she'll be on like Apple HomeKit in the car, Apple CarPlay in the car, and she'll be like, no, not that one, not that one. But then when an album comes out like Demon Days Gorillaz, where the whole thing is like, you start in the day and it goes to the night and the album gets dark, and I think it's such a beautiful thing. And although there are some people out there that will still do it, it does annoy me that some of the generations that are generation now, the generations don't do that. Actually, I think it's flipping back a little bit. I think people are starting to appreciate music a bit more.
Oh, absolutely.
I think we've gone through that scenario where people were happy to just blare it out on their speakers as they're walking, on their phone as they're walking back from school or whatever. And I think I certainly see, like, my daughter, maybe it's because it's me, my daughter has, you know, it's like she's got decent headphones, she's got Denon Hios in her bedroom with automated blinds, you know.
Just your typical.
Yeah, just your typical teenage bedroom. And I think that they start to learn to appreciate it. And I think we have gone down and we're going back up again, where I think people are seeing the importance of a good 2-channel system and actually listening to music again.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of content being consumed, essentially, because it gives us all the foundations to sell up, or when I say sell up, to let people experience better. So back in the hi-fi shop days, I remember it was before Price Spy and things like that, but it was with it was always the red pages in the middle of the magazines where everyone went to find the cheaper stuff, or went up to Tottenham Court Road to find the cheap stuff.
Well, the same people owned all the shops all the way up.
Yeah,
so they knew you were coming because they had a phone call.
Yeah,
but you still diligently went from shop to shop trying to get £50 off here, £50 off there.
Trying to do it, and it was a thing.
Yeah.
But it was quite a small audience in compared to now. But I remember when supermarkets started selling DVD players bundled with 10 DVDs. I was got £199 or something. This is when we were trying to sell proper, high quality DVD players with transports, and you worried about what the DACs were and all that sort of thing. And all of a sudden, £199, you could get 10 DVDs and a player.
Yeah.
And they were rubbish.
Yeah.
And I remember at the time, everyone was like, "Oh no, this is terrible. It's going to kill the industry." It's like, no, this just gets people going. They'll buy that. They'll hopefully enjoy it. They'll get into movies because, again, no Netflix, no Prime and Apple TV and everything. So they're now consuming content. And sure enough, we had people coming in saying, "I bought this. It's been a bit annoying, or it's broken. next up, and then so you had a wider audience. And that's what I think now with the opportunity our industry has is young people listening to music all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, my daughter's just, one of them is constantly plugged in either one way or another, not just on headphones, but just the default is playing Spotify.
And if it's not, if in my house, if it's not listening to music, it's singing music all the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I literally a few days ago,
Crowd participation.
I was editing a video where I was at a VE Day celebration in Icklesham, and I just took the camera along to record Molly and my wife singing in the VE Day celebration. And I'm editing it, and I'm literally sitting in front of my screen editing with Molly singing.
Yeah.
And then downstairs in the lounge is Molly singing.
singing.
And it's just like, oh my God, I can't get away from this. But
That's what noise cancelling headphones are for.
yeah, I know. I was trying to listen to something on TV whilst editing at the same time, so headphones wouldn't do it. But
that's lovely though, because it shows the engagement with music and movies, and these you can look back on times in your life where particular music, you can hear a track now and it will evoke an emotion from a time. It might be a pleasant emotion, it might be a sad one, it could be various things, but there's very few things which can do that. Yeah. And I think that's an interesting thing with well, you could say art in general, but music and movies.
I think with music, I mean, we touched on it, two things. We touched on it with, I think it was episode 2 of the podcast with Dan from Hidden Home Tech, about how music and scores in films just evoke emotion. And actually, you know, when you sit down in front of a good system, I've got a client which was a previous hi-fi brand you did. We bought a set of their speakers just before, you know, the switchover. And whenever I go back to that job now, I always sit in that room to do my yearly service, and I play some stuff on the speakers. Obviously, I'm testing them.
Oh, obviously.
But just I'm not privileged to be able to afford those because it was circa £40,000 setup, and just the what you hear. And I think, you know, it's a bit like, we're not fans, but we're not fans of like Dolby Vision on the soundbar and Dolby Vision in headphones and immersive in headphones. But as you say, it makes people aware of it, and then they go, well, hold on a second, is there anything better to do? And that's when you get talking to them about, you know, proper audio or proper immersive audio for cinemas and bits and pieces like that. So I suppose if we look at AWE, look at moving around the corner. I mean, I can remember going in there. And actually, it was quite funny because it was only when I looked at the dates, you weren't there for that long when I first started to know you. Yeah. And I mean, so the period between the period between sort of 2001 to when I started to know you. So let's say that 2001 to 2010 period when you started round there.
So that was a big move, and so the factory we owned freehold, and that was sold, and effectively that was sold to finance the change in direction of the business. So at that point, I became MD. So that would have been about 2001, I think it was, around there. It's about 25 years ago I became MD, and really we pulled out of retail, so because we shut the shop. There was a few contracts remaining which we sold off from the factory and sold the building.
What's the building now?
Well, annoyingly, we weren't property developers, but what we should have done is got residential development rights.
Probably.
The person we sold it to flipped it the same day and made about £500,000 in a day selling it onto a developer. Yeah.
Flats now, is it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we missed that one, but again, we were not property developers, and it didn't think at the time. We just wanted the business to go to its next stage. So, but with what we got, you couldn't then come to a place like Epsom and buy a 5,000-6,000 square foot warehouse on a nice business park with the money that we got. We changed to leasehold. We brought about 6 staff with us, which was myself, Paul, Jackie, lady called Alison, who's retired, and Dinka, who was our he was a service engineer.
Yeah.
He's the one that designed the old background music equipment. But by then there was still a need to repair CD players and things, so we were doing that.
Yeah, because I can remember Dinka sitting out the back here.
Yeah,
until
exactly.
a few years ago.
Yeah, until he retired.
Yeah, until he retired a few years ago.
Yeah.
And I remember walking in and him saying to me, it was always when you went for the transition from the car park out the back into here.
Yeah.
Hi, Diggs.
Yeah.
And he'd always be sitting there surrounded by something, repairing something. So.
That's it. So the people that came over were now travelling to Epsom from wherever they were living, but most of us were sort of, Surrey, Croydon sort of side, Croydon, Thornton Heath side of things. So we were now travelling here, and so we'd shut down the retail, we'd sold off the last bit, so it was purely trade distribution of audiovisual. So that was a decision that was huge, because now you have a completely different scenario. So we effectively downsized the number of people and the turnover of the business in order to put all our efforts on that, because Dad by then was probably 60, so probably had 5 years left of his planned retirement. So he could have retired at that point, but being a family business, you're so invested in it, you want to make it work. And you want to be every help you can.
Was that the responsibility of the generations, isn't there?
Yeah.
You don't want to be the generation where it doesn't work.
Yeah, exactly. And so actually my mum and dad were in the business.
Yeah.
So the van that you saw earlier, that Electra Wines white van, my mum used to drive the transformers up to places like Oxfordshire to deliver them to the companies, that needed them. So in the old building, you had mum, dad, myself, Paul, and other members of the team just focusing on distribution. And we had the warehouse at the back, sales office downstairs, then upstairs was the accounts office, and then we had a boardroom, which is probably about this size. But that was also where we set up one of the first THX Ultra residential cinemas. So that was Pioneer Plasma on the wall. It was
still some out there somewhere.
It was, yeah. It was a surround AV amp with THX Ultra. At that time, it was JMO THX speakers.
Blimey.
And we had that there. And this was a point where we had integrators bringing in footballers and.
So what brands were you distributing? Obviously Pioneer, JMO.
So, Pioneer, JMO was our main speaker company. We had a variety of AV amps at that point. So we did Denon at that point, but that particular amplifier was an Onkyo, which had the first to get that certification and the number of channels. Many of the brands we still do, but it was just a handful of brands in comparison. So we did URC.
Wasn't a huge amount then, was there, really?
Well, and this is what's changed. So this is what's changed now. I would say over the last 10 years, really. There was us and probably Pulse. Pulse were doing cinema systems. We were doing audio, visual, and control. So Philips Pronto. So it wasn't URC, it was Philips Pronto.
Yeah, I remember those.
So we were the audio-visual control when you had Pulse doing cinemas.
Still buy those on eBay working.
Yeah, I know, I'm still selling them.
Still got some in the warehouse.
Yeah. The thing that's changed now is the industry in the UK is very mature, and this is what makes it hard for everyone. It's what integrators are facing now. But you see the number of companies that have either gone broke or been absorbed into others, be it distributors or integrators. There have been some big names that have gone in recent years. And that's because when there's a downturn in business, things get harder. And there isn't enough business for everyone that was coming into the thriving market, particularly over the COVID period, to be sustained. And the same happened in the 2008, 9, 10 banking crisis.
I was about to say, yeah.
So this isn't our first rodeo. The thing that's changed is now every time I open a central install, there's another company selling another range of speakers or another range of amplification or another streaming device or another lighting product or another. So now there are, I'm not going to say too many, but for the market right now, you have to say it's a saturated market in the UK.
I think if you just we went, both of us went to ISE this year, Integrated Systems Europe in Barcelona. And even I go back to the first time I went just to Amsterdam when it was there, and you were probably way before me. It was huge. Yeah. I mean, even what we would say the Resi halls, you know, it was just like, if you want a speaker brand, take your choice. If you
Yep.
want an amplifier, take your choice.
Yep.
There is just there's a lot of, maybe not confusion, but there's a lot of brands out there all vying for that same space.
Yeah, and I think both, you know, I think it's a harder, it's a different job to what it was. When we were starting out, the market wasn't the size it was, so we were helping create the market, working, you know, alongside CEDIA and others to bring integrators into the residential side. And obviously, yeah, there was companies like SMC and others who were very active at that point, you know, sort of founder members alongside others, working to build this exciting new industry. But that's what it was.
Yeah.
It was new. So we were good at what we did then, and I believe we're good at what we do now. But the emphasis was slightly different. Before, it was trying to find people that might want to buy something that you're selling. I suppose it's the same. The difference is now there's 1,000,001 people you can buy from.
More people, but more, as you say, more
products.
people, but more products.
Bigger industry,
Yeah.
but yeah, more. So the question now, the challenge now is why might people want to buy from AWE instead of one of any other people choice they can go to?
Yeah.
And obviously that's the, you know, I think that's where it's helpful bringing out things like the legacy of the business we have, because like I say, people quite often just assume you're okay, you're one of the big ones. And it's like, well, we are okay, but we've worked bloody hard to get here and we will continue to do so. And the team that I'm privileged to lead along with the other, alongside Paul and the senior management team, are all pulling in the same direction, trying to make a difference, really, trying to help AWE stand out amongst a very crowded marketplace.
Well, I think even if you go back to like the 2 units you had around the corner,
Yep.
What was in the second unit? That was offices in the end.
Yeah, so we outgrew the first
Yeah.
one because we needed more warehouse space. So the growth was substantial from there, starting from 6 people not making money,
Yeah.
to probably by the time we left there, maybe 15, 18 people. So just office space for one, but warehouse space was the other. So we added the second building because things were going very well and we wanted a more dedicated show space. So that's when we were able to build a bigger demonstration area. And we were actually one of the first to have a proper, let's call it multi-room with dedicated cinema room. And that was just around the corner from here.
And I think that's when I sort of got to know you. I can always remember walking in to the front door, you chucked a right, and there was the Pronto home.
Yep.
And then I always remember, was it an Onkyo amplifier, which was literally crushed? And you had a little bit on it, which was like, can you guess the excuse the delivery company gave us, or something like that?
Yeah.
That's something always stuck in my mind.
Yeah. No, it was. They were fun times.
Yeah.
They were fun times because things were happening. I mean, things still are happening, but it was exciting to see people like yourselves come in from a different industry, and basically the training and the learning and the demonstration facilities. We were one of very few doing it in the way that the industry is now embraced, and you grew your position and standing in the industry and businesses. Utilising companies such as ourselves through the training and all the knowledge.
Yeah, I mean, 100%. I was looking after a lot of the Sony centres in the southeast. Sort of discovered that trying to get more income to the business, and then obviously also trying to get the Sony centres, which are franchises, to embrace CI.
Yep.
Surprised they didn't. They're now closed. Not Sony's fault. It was the franchise's fault.
Yep.
And then, you guys were a great help, teaching me, coming on, Pronto courses, then URC courses, Dying Light courses with Craig when he was here.
Yep.
Even to today, I know Simon, who works with me, because James and Craig, he came in here to see you guys because he's only in Leatherhead.
Yep.
He's like, do you know anybody who might need some help? I just broken up with my previous employee, and it was that awkward period. It was like when you dump a girlfriend and you don't want a new one for a few months, and Simon comes walking in, and now he came from here, and even to the extent that's what's been great, especially with me, is that you come over here. What was it, 11 years ago here?
Yes, it would have been 2013, so just over 11, 12.
I mean, I was looking at that, and that was just. That it's been that long.
Yeah, because that was another huge step from the building around the corner.
Big step.
It's like 4 times the size of the building, and that was in order. Again, whilst we wanted to, it was actually the tail end of the banking crisis. So, when I say it was tail end, the banking crisis and the what do they call it? The money lending. Is basically the restrictions that all the banks put on following that. Yeah. So business was hard then. Pioneer had pulled out of Plasma, Philips had pulled out of Pronto. That was 50% of our business over a 12-month period. But the underlying business was growing at a rate which gave us confidence to still move here, because this building became available and we were like, that's not going to come up again anytime soon. So we actually again took a pretty big calculated risk at that point, and again went from profit to loss to move here. Because we could have battened down the hatches and retracted into one of the 2 buildings that we then had. But it was probably one of the final parts that my dad was involved in as well, even though he'd kind of stepped back by then. It was, okay, no, this is like sets us up for the future.
Yeah.
And so we spent everything we had moving in here. And you'll probably remember things like the show apartment. We didn't have all these rooms and cinemas. We just had the show apartment.
Just the show apartment. And then the first cinema was opened.
Added later.
Yeah.
But the show apartment was pretty much a plastered white room with a 85-inch TV in the corner and a few posters almost, because we had no money at all.
Well, I mean, and that's what's been great about the space now. I mean, obviously, if you go back on the newsletters, or if you go to immersive virtual tours, last year we captured the what it is now as a virtual tour, and like the room we're sitting in now was last year added, wasn't it? And to the fact that you went from that one room to now to 2 cinemas. You've got the hi-fi rooms now over where the training room was. Yeah, it's been brilliant as a fan of AWE, and a customer of AWE, to see that growth of a family business.
And I think what's changed in the last 5 years compared to when, so if you take in context us going back over 20 years ago, so 25 years when we first moved to Epsom, we set up a showroom and a cinema room.
Yeah.
But it was also our boardroom. We call it boardroom, it was me, mum and dad. I had a table. But
I've got a boardroom, it's just me.
Yeah, that's it.
It's my kitchen table.
So we've all got a boardroom, let's be honest. But that was the beginning of a showroom which we allowed integrators to bring people into. And moving into the other building gave us the ability to create a dedicated space for that. And then moving to here, we really set a benchmark at that point. And then when we added the cinema, and that's when we became, it's really the first point we became serious in home cinema. Because we were selling amps, we were selling speakers. There was some Panasonic projectors which we sold, but we didn't really have a cinema room per se. So it was when we moved here, and once we could afford to build the cinema room, it was okay, let's do that. And from that point forward, that led to massive growth with Epsom, and then winning the Sony projection business, and helping them substantially increase that in the UK, working together. And that then led to Bowers, which we're doing so much Bowers compared to any speaker brand we ever did before. And that's the same with Sony, it's the same with other key brands. And that's what you need to do, is my lessons from the previous generations was, if you just get up every day, and I could put it in the context of retail, if I was still at the shop at Thornton Heath, waiting for the next person to walk in to buy something and then complaining about the price because it's cheaper online, we wouldn't be here.
And I, as I say, touching on what I touched a minute ago, I was sitting there as the hanging and banging guy for the TVs for the Sony centres, and I was saying to them, you've got to stop shifting boxes.
You've got to add value.
Unless you are massive, like some of the the shed locations,
Yep.
the industrial estate locations, you're not going to survive. No, it'll be fine, it'll be fine, it'll be fine. You know, and they had massive credit accounts, and
Yep.
and you're sitting there going, look, just trust me, just try to do this, try to do that with it, and then I think the people in question, 2010 was the first time, and then they phoenixed,
Yep.
and then in 2014 it was the final time,
Yep.
and that was when I met you guys. Was because I was sitting there going, do you know what? I can't rely on these people.
Yep.
I can't rely on the over-the-counter stuff to give me work. So touching back to, obviously, I know you probably can't go into it to a huge amount of detail, but touching like, you know, where when brands pull out of the market, obviously we've just seen the issue with Sony.
Yes.
You know, having that
Yep.
little blip, and then obviously, you know, D&M Holdings going
Yes.
to
Yep.
Massimo, and then, you know, and now there's the
Offer from Harman.
not uncertainty, but the, you know, now that's now changing hands again.
Yep.
How does that affect the business? Do you sit there and see the headlines like we do, or have the advance warning of it, and then sit there and go, okay, are we battening down the hatches, or because from this side, it's I see the headlines and go, oh shit, I can't get Sony projectors for 2 months. You're sitting this side going, okay, I know we've got Epsom, but
You have good days in the office and bad days in the office, and you know the thing that happened. Well, let's separate them into two things. If we go back to the earlier ones where Pioneer pulled out of plasma, you know, that was our biggest brand.
Yeah.
That was probably 25% of our business at the time. But there was the opportunity. I'm not going to say we had notice, but writing was maybe on the wall, and we had other brands that you could sell to. Things like Pronto, we had just launched. You were probably there. We just previewed new products to 150 integrators who came down. We were showing IP integration on a control solution before anyone else, and then Philips can it, like, what are you doing? So in terms of those, the reps from Belgium that were here with us talking to our customers got the phone call as they were coming out the Eurotunnel. Yeah. And then we got the phone call the next morning, and that was last orders, please. We're shutting it down. Yeah. So the news, the way the news comes is varied. In the Pronto example, there was no opportunity to cross-sell, and it was, we want your last order, it's done. And that, again, was about 25% of our business. So add that to the Pioneer, the Pioneer bit then came later. But those two bits together were substantial. Yeah, we went from profit to loss because of a phone call, nothing to do with our decisions.
And you probably can't help but sit there and go, okay, what do we do?
Well, so it's been very good learnings. That's where probably at that time I could still draw upon, say, mum and dad's experience of before, because there had been recessions previously, you know, and that was all off the back of the banking crisis and the recession. So it's not like business was easy at the point the phone call came, but we were a growing company, and that gave us a massive knock. But the underlying business was still good. The market was still good. The market wasn't good at that time, but the principle of the market, it wasn't like pivoting from mending radios.
There was excitement in the industry.
The industry had
discovering
longevity.
plasma and home control.
Yes.
And
yeah, so there was still opportunities. So the question there is, you get up every day and you go, right, what are we going to do? What are our best options? How are we going to make it work? And if as a business you have to make cutbacks at that point, we've always been willing to give up profits for a year or two in order to retain, you know, the best, or to retain staff and to come out the other side fighting. You know, that's what we did through COVID. It's what we did through that period there. But the numbers matter, and if the numbers don't add up as a business, you have to make difficult decisions. And back then, we had to let some staff go. Yeah. Because, like I say, it was half our turnover within a period of a year. But we grew out of it, and it makes you sharper. And whenever you have those difficult times, you do analyse everything much closer. So my dad always referred to the leaky bucket. It doesn't matter how much you're putting in the top, if you've got leaks at the bottom, you're never going to be successful. So that mindset has always stayed with me. So we've always tried to be very efficient as a business. But there's been efficient and there's been efficient.
Yeah.
And when the numbers start looking more difficult, you have to look at them. We will always try and do whatever we can to minimise, overheads in terms of outgoing routine expenses. That's why, we're not sitting there with a fleet of Ferraris with personalised number plates for out there. If an individual can go as a result of their success and buy that, fantastic. But it's not an overhead the company. We're not about being showy for show's sake.
No, I mean, I've always
make it deliver.
I've always seen your growth is calculated.
Yeah.
Your decisions to build the second cinema.
Yep.
Your decisions to move here. Obviously, there's a certain amount of risk, but there's also okay. I think that the people come in here. I mean, obviously, with the two cinemas, you had the bigger. Well, you still have the bigger one and the smaller one. The bigger one is a bit bigger, and the smaller one is a bit a bit bigger in respects of the equipment it has. But it is a calculated sort of like, okay, so I think the market now warrants a projector that could support a £70,000 budget.
So it's organic growth.
Yeah.
Off the back of the work that we all put in. And those decisions are always measured against that. So, for example, we recognise that now from the ethos when we designed this apartment was we're not selling the fixtures and fittings, we're selling the equipment in it. So what we need to do is present the equipment in the best light that we can against a fairly modest backdrop. Over the last 5 years, there's been a notable change to high-end fixtures and fittings in showrooms.
Yeah.
And it's been led by the fact that interior designers and architects and M&E consultants and this are getting more engaged and they're visiting showrooms, and integrators are then being very good at recognising, okay, integrators are setting up showrooms, so because they're working with those people, the level of fixture and fitting and environment of a showroom has got higher.
We were just briefly earlier, we were discussing the Wow House this year.
Yeah.
And that some of the AWE clients, customers have got involved in that.
Yep.
And I know that being there recently, recorded some stuff there, the interior designers have gone, so perforated fabric, that's a thing we do?
Yeah.
Yeah. We could perforate fabric so you could put speakers behind it. Yeah. Oh, wow. Yeah. And us dealing with that industry and that industry dealing with us is growing the industry. There's
always new challenges. There's always opportunities, but there's the challenges come as well. So, with regards to us and the showroom and what you expressed about the way we've done it, this room is to a higher standard than when we did the main apartment. But we want to do the main apartment. We will do in the coming period. But for us, that is okay. That's I don't know yet, but let's call it £100,000. It's certainly a six-figure investment to get it to where it would want to be, or where we would want it to be. So it's a great apartment. It's really good. But if we want to move it on, we've got to step up everything within it. There's no parent company. We're not European headquarters of a loudspeaker brand who can suddenly say, well, let's make this a European showcase and put £500,000 into it. This is me looking around going, okay, this is what I believe our ROI will be if we invest this amount. We work with partners, and we've got plans. Breaking news, we have plans.
I was going to say, so let's go on to the future. Where do you see, like, so if we look at generation, of any of your children going to come into the industry? Is there what happens when you decide to retire? Is there plans there? You going to stay in this building for the foreseeable future, or do you expand to? If you'll need to grow further?
Well, there's things I can talk about and things I can't talk about.
Damn, I want an exclusive. I'm retiring next week.
Well, the things I can talk about are this building. We've just renewed on a 10-year lease.
Okay.
But to give you an example, it's doubled in 10 years. The rental in Epsom doubled. So
imagine.
It was again it was a calculated decision to renew. Because there are places you can go that are cheaper, But the location we have is fantastic, and it's got parking. Like you say, it's a lovely building. So the decision is to stay here. So we've renewed for 10 years. And that's what's then enabled us to start having the thoughts about the showroom. Because there's no point when you've got 2 years left on a lease when you start thinking, okay, what do we need to do? So what we've done is incremental changes, built additional rooms, constant improvements. And it's a lovely showroom that's still got people coming through every day using it. But we're always pushing. You don't get to 90 years by saying, yeah, that'll do. Like we're always going to push. So we are going to push, and with the brands we have, they are top tier brands. We get offered brands.
I can imagine.
Literally every week. And there's very, very few we take on because they need to be, top tier in the category that they're working in. And some of those are consumer electronics brands who are fairly mass market. Others are high end of consumer, and others are very specialist. So across that portfolio, you'll see our brands are always, within that top tier. And so for us to show those in environments like this, to encourage people such as yourselves and other HCA members to come down and spend time, give us their time, and bring their customers here, we need to keep moving on. So we are here. We will continue to invest in the showroom. We've got our core brands, which we are very much working with together and focusing on and developing partner programs and so on to enhance those. And there will be some new brands, over the coming 12 months, which we'll be able to share at the right time. So in terms of what are we planning to do, we are planning to grow as a business, but we will remain specialist. The decisions we have to make are to grow. We either have to sell what we've got to more people or sell more things to the people we've got, or a combination of the both. How far do we widen that? So we could go into networking, we could go into lighting, we could go into security systems, we could go into window shading, there's all these different areas we could go into. But the question is, you sort of end up becoming, you're no longer as specialist. So one of the decisions is, right, do we continue strictly within an audiovisual category as, I know numerically speaking, the leaders of the audiovisual categories with the brands we're dealing with, or do we add associated categories of products?
I think it's the support as well, because for me, literally, when we finish this, I'm putting on the other. Actually, no, I've got the T-shirt on. I'm not just HCA. I got the dual T-shirt.
You got the dual.
I'm going back to literally a 10-year-old URC job. And I've already spoken to Mel and Danny about it because the client doesn't want to upgrade it because it's working, but he's got an issue. So, Mel's like, right, download the Accelerator Mark 1. When you're there, give me a shout, and what we'll do is we'll team viewer into it. So, which is, for me, you buy from people. And it's going to sound mushy, but I don't consider AW.
Go on, Stu, give us some mush.
I consider a lot of you guys to be friends. Even new people that have sort of come in. Mara, Ellie.
Which is the persona of the company.
Which is like everybody's still a friend. The amount of donuts I bought here on a Friday afternoon, just say, here you go. And then someone would say, can you bring fruit next time? That was Christina. But yeah, so I mean, it sounds exciting. Obviously, I've not been here in the showroom for a while. And already, even now, you're constantly updating it. Things are coming, things are going, you're tweaking it. It's always fresh. And, for anybody who's not been here, obviously reach out to the guys to come down and see. It is a fantastic place to come. And it's always nice to see it ever evolving.
Appreciate that. And it's here to be used. So, as Stu says, get in touch if you want to come and visit. And that can be with or without a client. It could be one person, it could be a team. We hold events for companies where could be anything from 3 to 15 people from one company coming down and learning about stuff. And the good thing is, with our industry knowledge, that can be not just product training. It could be talking about cinema design, for example. It doesn't have to be just about, well, what is the technology of that product? We could be drawing comparisons between different technologies and what the relative benefits are and things.
And I think there's lots of people coming into this industry, into our industry. There's lots of people coming into our industry who may do a bit of this and they may do a bit of that, and they want to learn about this. And I think that's where, you know, yourselves are really good in respects of you'll say, okay, well, your knowledge is X, Y, and Z, you know, so come in and we'll teach you about multi-room audio a bit more, or, you know, the Bowers and Wilkins range, or what cinemas can be. And then obviously then I could join them up to the HCA to become a member.
Exactly, exactly. Nice symbiotic relationship.
Yeah. So to end on a little bit of fun, which you don't know anything about.
What fun? I know lots about fun.
Lots about fun.
It's my middle name.
And there's a massive car behind you, which obviously is a sponsorship you had, and I've been on many a fun days with you. Yeah. We usually do something fun with the members, which is, you know, like if money's no object, any system, you know, what would it be? I think I want to ask you is simple. Your favourite movie? You can go with a couple.
It's going to sound so cheesy. It's going to sound so cheesy.
If you had to sit down tomorrow or sit down this weekend and watch a movie, what would it be?
That's a different question to me. And I'll explain why. When you say what's my favourite movie, something in my head that I can't control thinks of original Top Gun.
Yeah.
I can't control that.
Yeah.
It's probably not my favourite movie, but it is probably the one that evokes the most emotion because it relates back to the days we were talking about. It's like the first surround demo that we were doing alongside Indiana Jones and things. So it's not going to be that, but of its age, you know, that period of life where you got a car, put your sound system in it when you could put 12-inch subs in the boot and all of that. And then just that whole era, I think. So that's probably the sort of slightly nostalgic favourite movie.
Yeah.
Just because we were talking about music and movies evoking emotions. And I think that was just a great time for me. You know, so I suppose it's that independence and work and having fun with audiovisual equipment. More recently, I'm probably more like top five. I love different movies at, I know it sounds strange, but different times a year. Mm-hmm. So coming up to Christmas and just that sort of, it's cold outside, sitting inside. Yeah. I go back to the older stuff. I go back to things like Great Escape and probably classics, classic movies really. So yeah, you're right. I'm on the spot. I haven't thought of them, but there's two examples.
Well, it's funny because like if someone says to me, "What's your favourite movie?" It's Natural Born Killers. Mm-hmm. And again, I don't know why, and I haven't been and watched it in years because I'm afraid that I won't like it again. But why I like it was because I went to the cinema to watch it, and the emotions of people. It was a Marmite movie. Yeah, you know, it was like, what a pile of expletive, or man, that was amazing. And I think that's why I loved that film, was because it was just so divisive. It was like black and white. Yep. Good or bad. Yep. And I think my favourite film of current time, and I don't want to watch the sequel because I think it's getting panned, was Joker, the latest Joker movie. The first one. Yep. Oh my God, that I even put out on social. I think this is now my favourite film of all time, and I won't watch the new one because on Sky it's got like 1.5 stars out of 5, and I've not watched it yet. But
that's the tricky thing. So you've got there's movies that weren't good but become classics like Blues Brothers and things like that. So again, there's sort of points in life which you can say, I remember at that point I was doing this, or that was my first trip abroad and I listened to that album, that type of thing. Versus what's a great movie now. So when you watch back the old movies, because they were on tube TVs or smaller TVs with a certain level of audio, you can't necessarily watch them now and get the same experience you had at the time because it just looks and sounds old. Yeah. So I saw F1 the movie at the weekend, and at IMAX cinema, and that was great. But I was kind of split on it because I'm such an F1 fan. There's part of me saying, just enjoy the movie, it's Hollywood, okay? And there was the other bit which is just the cinematic nature, or what they've done with the soundtrack and the filming is superb, and to bring that to a mass audience, I think, is really exciting. And no doubt it's going to be the one that we keep hearing once it's out on Blu-ray.
Yeah, it'll be like the Lady Gaga film.
Star is Born.
Star is Born,
Yeah.
Greatest Showman, Maverick.
Yeah.
You know, I mean, I've still not watched The Star is Born, but apart from those 2 or 3 clips.
It's a much, when I say slower movie than
Yeah.
I imagined, it's the same as anything else. You see the highlights 100 times, and then you're aware of it constantly playing. And then when you watch a movie, it's not quite what you expected.
Yeah.
So that's a good movie. But once you've seen the highlights, the bits in the middle are kind of like not quite so engaging, perhaps.
Awesome. Well, anything else you want to touch on? I think we covered a lot.
Yeah, I think we covered a lot. No, just to say thanks again for joining us. Help us spread the AWE 90 message.
Yeah.
And if anyone's got this far, thank you as well. And
I was thinking, I hope we can get 20 minutes out of this. I have no idea how this is.
I don't know how you're going to edit this down, but
I won't. I like long form.
yeah,
I'm going to Wales tomorrow, and I've already got the podcast lined up that I want to listen to. And I think there's a lot of people that will listen to this. I was chatting to Rob from Maven recently, and he's like, I've been on site the last few weeks. I've listened to both your podcasts because they're great. I could just put the headphones in, work away, and just listen.
Nice.
And hopefully, what we're doing with the podcast can communicate to the installers what AWE is and what our industry obviously is, but also to the end consumer, saying that behind the brands there are the distributors and there are these family companies that support the installers that fundamentally support the end client and the systems that they have.
So you can just flag this one for long journeys.
Yeah, for long journeys. Yeah. Warning: it's you need to be travelling to a CEDIA Tech Summit or something like that.
This is Stuart talking, so they should probably figure that out if they know either of us.
And all I can say is just bookmark this one, and we'll come back in 10 years for the 100 year.
Absolutely.
Yeah, and
make it happen.
The massive plans. I would say you could take us on a trip down to your speaker manufacturer, but they're literally like down near where you live.
Yeah, down the road.
Yeah. Awesome, Stuart. Thank you very much for your time.
Cheers, buddy.
Cheers, buddy. Thank you. Cheers.
See you.